You are currently breathing in the debris of a trillion dead realities and you do not even know it. The ground beneath your feet is a hollow shell, and the people in white coats just found the detonator. Everything you touch, the air you inhale, and the very skin on your bones is nothing more than a thin, fragile scab stretched over an infinite abyss. We have spent centuries believing that the world is solid, but the truth is far more terrifying. Reality is a lie designed to keep you from screaming. Deep beneath the peaceful border of France and Switzerland, the cows graze and the tractors move slowly across soil cultivated for generations. It looks like a postcard from a forgotten age. But 100 meters down, there is a monster made of steel and ice. It is a 27-kilometer circle of concrete and cryogenic pipes known as the Large Hadron Collider. This is not a laboratory. It is a mechanical throat built to scream at the universe until it admits it has been hiding something from us. If the surface is ancient and pastoral, the tunnel below is alien. It is the skeleton of a mechanical planet, filled with industrial blues and silvers, humming with a power that could swallow a city whole. The purpose of this machine is simple to state but impossible to truly grasp without losing your mind. It was built to recreate, for the briefest imaginable instant, the violent conditions that existed just after the birth of the cosmos. Inside the ring runs a beam pipe so empty it surpasses the vacuum of outer space. Every molecule of stray air is sucked out because even a single atom of resistance would ruin the ritual. Surrounding this pipe are thousands of superconducting magnets. To function, they must be cooled to 1.9 Kelvin. That is colder than the natural temperature of deep space. It is a temperature where the very concept of heat dies and electrical resistance vanishes. In this frozen darkness, they do not move steam or electricity. They move the stripped souls of hydrogen atoms. Protons. They group millions of these particles into tight bunches and inject them into the ring. Then the acceleration begins. Faster. Faster. Until they are traveling at 99.99% of the speed of light. At that velocity, a single proton circles the entire 27-kilometer ring more than 10,000 times every single second. If you could ride alongside one of those protons, the world would dissolve into a blur of madness. The walls would vanish. The ring would shrink. And if the magnets misalign by even a fraction of a millimeter, the beam would melt through the steel like a ghost through paper. All of this motion and power serves one goal, the collision. At 4 specific points, the beams are directed toward each other. They smash together inside massive detectors like Atlas and CMS, layered instruments designed to record the forensic evidence of a cosmic car crash. When two protons meet at near light speed, they do not behave like solid objects. They are dynamic clusters of quarks and gluons. Their impact creates temperatures and pressures that have not existed since less than a billionth of a second after the Big Bang. In that microscopic fireball, matter and energy melt into one another. New particles burst into existence. Some are familiar. Some have never been seen in human history. They streak outward, decaying instantly into lighter fragments, leaving behind nothing but digital screams. We do this because we are desperate. Our current map of reality, the Standard Model, is a brilliant achievement that covers only 5% of the universe. We are living on a tiny island of light while 95% of everything that exists is dark, silent, and invisible. We call it dark matter and dark energy, but those are just names for our ignorance. We know the stars at the edges of galaxies move too fast. We know something massive is holding them in place, something that does not shine or absorb light. We are the minority. We are the rounding error in a universe that belongs to something else. Even gravity, the force that keeps your feet on the floor, is a crisis. Hold a refrigerator magnet over a paperclip. The tiny magnet easily pulls the clip up, defying the gravitational pull of the entire Earth, which weighs nearly 6 sextillion tons. Why is gravity so weak? It is 10 to the power of 36 times weaker than the electromagnetic force. Physicists suspect the answer is a nightmare. Gravity is not weak, it is just leaking. It might be bleeding away into extra dimensions, directions we cannot see or touch because we are trapped on a three-dimensional membrane. We are like ants crawling on a tightrope, unaware of the vast, dark forest surrounding us. The Large Hadron Collider is a dimension detector. It is looking for missing energy, for the moment when a collision produces something that slips through a hidden door and vanishes into the dark sector. And then there is the Higgs field. It is an invisible ocean that permeates every point in space, giving particles their mass. In 2012, they found the ripple in that ocean. But the discovery came with a warning. The measurements suggest that our universe is metastable. We are not at the bottom of the valley. We are balanced on a ledge. Imagine a ball resting in a shallow dip halfway down a mountain. It looks stable. It has stayed there for billions of years. But if it ever nudged, if it ever tunneled through the barrier, it would fall to a lower energy state. This is called vacuum decay. If it happens, a bubble of true vacuum would expand at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics and unmaking every atom in its path. You would not see it coming. You would simply cease to be as the universe chooses a more efficient way to exist. We built a frozen ring beneath the earth to strike the foundations of reality and listen for the hollow sound that tells us there is more. We are not just smashing protons. We are pressing our ears against the walls of a prison, listening for the footsteps of the jailer. We search for the hidden layer because we have realized that our island is sinking. The map is incomplete. The vacuum is a gateway. And the darkness is not empty. It is crowded. We spend our lives fearing the dark, but the real horror is the light. We are the 5%, a thin film of dust on a vast, hungry ocean of shadows. We keep searching for the truth, hoping to find a grand unified theory that explains it all. But every time we peel back a layer, we find only more silence and more missing energy. We are a species of ghosts living in a haunted house, trying to understand the architecture before the floor gives way. The machine continues to hum. The protons continue to circle. The collisions continue to tear at the fabric of space. We are looking for the answer to why we exist, but we might not like what we find. Because if the ledger finally balances, and if the missing energy is accounted for, it will mean that we were never the main characters of this story. It will mean that the universe is not ours, and the hidden layer is finally ready to reclaim the space we have been occupying. The most terrifying thing about the universe is not that it is vast and indifferent. It is that it might be temporary. We are balancing on a ledge of frozen light, staring into a 27-kilometer eye that is blinking at the void. And the punchline is this: we spent billions of dollars to build a machine that could prove we are just a glitch in a much darker system, and the only reason the universe hasn't deleted us yet is because it hasn't noticed we are here. You are currently standing on a thin layer of frozen glass over a bottomless ocean of absolute nothingness. You believe the world is solid, but that is the first lie your senses ever told you. The reality is that your entire existence is a mathematical glitch that the universe is actively trying to fix. Deep beneath the peaceful soil of the Swiss border, a machine the size of a city is screaming at the fabric of space, and for the first time in human history, the fabric is starting to scream back. What if the Large Hadron Collider was not built to study the beginning of the universe, but to find out how close we are to the end? Beneath the surface of our world, something deeper is at work. The atoms in your hands and the light from distant stars are merely the outermost skin of a monstrously complex structure that we were never meant to see. For decades, physics has peeled back reality piece by piece, uncovering particles and invisible fields that shape our lives. Yet, the deeper we look, the more we realize that our map is not just incomplete, it is a warning. Scientists at CERN now suspect that what we call reality is a fragile surface hiding extra dimensions, dark matter, and unseen layers that do not follow our laws. The border between France and Switzerland is a mask of pastoral calm. Small villages sit quietly between the Jura Mountains and the Alps while cows graze on soil cultivated for centuries. Nothing suggests that 100 meters down, there is a 27-kilometer ring of concrete and steel designed to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang. This is the Large Hadron Collider. If the surface is ancient, the tunnel is alien. It is a skeleton of a mechanical planet, filled with cryogenic pipes and magnets colder than the vacuum of outer space. The purpose of this machine is to accelerate protons to 99.99% of the speed of light and smash them together. But they do not behave like billiard balls. When these particles collide, they melt into a microscopic fireball of energy that has not existed since the dawn of time. We are not just observing matter, we are converting motion into mass, creating heavy particles that have been extinct for billions of years. We are looking for the hidden layer, the submerged continent of reality that the standard model cannot explain. Our current map of physics is a brilliant success that accounts for only 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy, a vast, invisible pressure that is pushing galaxies apart and holding them together at the same time. We are a minority in our own home. Even gravity, the force that keeps your feet on the ground, is a mystery. It is so weak that a common toy magnet can defy the pull of the entire Earth. This is the hierarchy problem. Why is gravity so pathetic? The answer might be the most terrifying thing of all. Gravity might not be weak, it might just be leaking. It could be bleeding out into additional, hidden dimensions that we cannot perceive. We are like giants stepping over microscopic grooves, unaware that the force of the cosmos is draining away into the cracks between spaces. The LHC is now a dimension detector. We are watching for missing energy, looking for the moment when a collision produces a particle that simply vanishes into another realm. If gravity leaks out, things can leak in. We are striking the ocean of existence and watching for ripples, but we may have already disturbed something in the depths. The Higgs field, the invisible sea that gives everything mass, is the most dangerous part of this architecture. In 2012, we found the Higgs boson, the ripple in that sea. But that discovery revealed a hairline crack in the foundation of the universe. The value of the Higgs field suggests that our universe is metastable. We are not at the bottom of the energy valley, we are perched on a shallow ledge. In quantum mechanics, systems can tunnel. If the Higgs field tunnels into a lower energy state at any single point in space, it will trigger vacuum decay. A bubble of true vacuum will expand at the speed of light, incinerating every atom, rewriting every law of physics, and erasing the memory of our existence before the light of the event can even reach our eyes. There would be no pain and no warning. One moment, a galaxy exists, the next, it is overwritten by a new version of reality where we are impossible. We are currently living in the silence before the collapse. The hidden layer is not a theory, it is a predatory reality that is closing in. We have spent billions of dollars to build a machine that probes the stability of our cage, only to find that the bars are made of shadows. The ground is not solid. The vacuum is not empty. The end is not a fire, it is a correction. We are the error in the equation. The countdown did not start yesterday. It started when the first particle was smashed. Now, as the magnets hum and the beams collide, we are just waiting for the ledger to balance. The number of seconds left in our reality can be counted on one hand. There are only 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you on the other side. You are touching nothing. Everything you have ever felt, from the warmth of a hand to the cold of a stone, is just an electromagnetic rejection, a lie told by your nerves to keep you from falling through the floor. The universe is not a solid object, it is a fragile glitch waiting to be corrected. Deep beneath the peaceful pastures of the Franco-Swiss border, there is a machine that is trying to find the exit door. It is a 27-kilometer ring of superconducting magnets and liquid helium, a mechanical god built by humans to scream at the fabric of reality until it tears. This is the Large Hadron Collider, and it has found something that suggests we are living on a thin sheet of paper floating over an infinite, hungry abyss. For decades, we believed we had the map. We called it the Standard Model. It was beautiful, charting the quarks and the leptons, the building blocks of every sun and every cell. But as we looked closer, the map started to bleed. We realized that every star, every galaxy, and every human life only accounts for 5% of what actually exists. The other 95% is a ghost. We call it dark matter and dark energy, names we use to hide the fact that we are totally blind to the majority of our own reality. We are like children playing in a tiny corner of a darkened mansion, unaware of the things moving in the shadows just inches away. But the machine underground is looking for those shadows. It accelerates protons to 99.99% of the speed of light, circling the Earth thousands of times per second before smashing them together. These collisions are not just impacts, they are tiny, violent recreations of the birth of the cosmos. For a fraction of a second, the heat is billions of times greater than the center of the sun. In that fireball, the laws of physics melt. Energy turns into mass. And sometimes, the energy does not come back. This is the missing energy. It is the signature of a thief. When physicists audit the aftermath of a collision and find that the numbers do not add up, they do not assume the machine failed. They suspect that something has escaped. Gravity, the force that keeps your feet on the ground, is suspiciously weak. It is 10 to the power of 36 times weaker than the forces inside an atom. A tiny refrigerator magnet can defy the gravity of the entire Earth. Why? Because gravity might not belong to us. It might be leaking into extra dimensions, directions we cannot see because we are trapped in our three-dimensional prison. We are looking for the holes where the energy pours out, trying to find the hidden layers that hold the true strength of the universe. Then there is the vacuum. We used to think empty space was truly empty. We were wrong. Space is filled with the Higgs field, an invisible ocean that gives particles their weight. Without it, you would have no mass, you would be a ghost moving at the speed of light, unable to hold a shape. In 2012, we found the ripple in that ocean. We found the Higgs boson. But the discovery came with a terrifying realization. The Higgs field is not stable. According to the latest measurements, our universe is in a metastable state. We are not sitting at the bottom of the valley, we are perched on a ledge. Imagine a ball resting on a shelf halfway down a mountain. It looks safe. It has been there for billions of years. But if it is nudged, even by a quantum fluctuation, it will fall. If the Higgs field tunnels into a lower energy state, it will create a bubble of true vacuum. This bubble would expand at the speed of light, incinerating everything in its path. It would rewrite the laws of chemistry and physics instantly. There would be no pain, no warning, and no time to scream. The universe as we know it would simply cease to be, replaced by something we cannot comprehend. We are poking at the foundations of a house that might be built on a sinkhole. We smash the particles, we hunt for the dark sectors, and we listen for the hollow sound of a reality that is far thinner than we ever imagined. We are not just observers, we are the ones holding the needle to the bubble. We are the nudge that could send the ball rolling off the ledge. The numbers are clear. The probability is small, but the stakes are infinite. We are a civilization of 5 billion years of evolution, standing in a circle, staring into a hole in the ground, waiting for the abyss to blink first. The most shocking truth is not that we are alone in the universe, but that the universe itself is a temporary arrangement of shadows. The countdown is not something you can hear, but it is happening in every atom of your body, every second of every day. There are 0 ways to stop it, 0 ways to hide, and 0 chances of survival if the floor finally gives way. The hidden layer is not a secret, it is a death sentence written in the language of mathematics. One day, the vacuum will decide it is tired of pretending to be solid, and then there will be nothing but the silence of 10 trillion years of empty space. Look at your hands one last time and realize that they are made of nothing but borrowed time and 3 small lies. You are currently standing on a trapdoor that covers a bottomless abyss and humanity just started picking the lock. Right now, beneath the serene pastures of Europe, a machine the size of a city is trying to summon the end of reality just to see what lies underneath. We call it the Large Hadron Collider, but it might actually be a stethoscope pressed against the chest of a universe that is about to stop breathing. Think about the atoms in your hands. You believe they are solid, permanent, and real. You are wrong. Physics has spent decades peeling back the skin of existence, and the more we look, the more we realize that everything we see is just a thin, flickering film stretched over a void we cannot comprehend. Beneath the border of France and Switzerland, 100 meters down, there is a ring. It is not a cave or a tunnel for commuters. It is a 27-kilometer circle of concrete and frozen steel. If the world above is ancient and peaceful, the world below is alien. It is a mechanical planet skeleton filled with industrial blues and cryogenic pipes pulsing with liquid helium. The goal of this machine is to recreate the exact moment of the birth of the cosmos. Inside this ring, scientists have created a vacuum emptier than the space between stars. They take the stripped cores of hydrogen atoms and hurl them into the dark. Thousands of superconducting magnets, cooled to 1.9 Kelvin, guide these particles. That is colder than the natural temperature of deep space. At this temperature, reality begins to bend. Resistance vanishes. Power flows without limit. Faster. Faster. They push these protons until they are screaming at 99.99% of the speed of light. At that velocity, a single proton circles the 27-kilometer ring more than 10,000 times every single second. The energy contained in a beam smaller than a human hair is enough to melt a block of solid copper. And then, they make them collide. Inside detectors the size of cathedrals, protons smash together to create microscopic fireballs with temperatures and pressures that haven't existed for 13.8 billion years. In that tiny fraction of a second, matter and energy blur. New particles, some never before seen in human history, burst into existence and die instantly. We do this because we have realized our map of the universe is a lie. For years, we relied on the standard model of physics. It was our blueprint. But we have discovered that this blueprint only describes 5% of reality. Look at the stars. Every galaxy, every sun, every person you have ever loved makes up only a tiny fraction of what exists. 95% of the universe is missing. It is made of dark matter and dark energy, invisible ghosts that hold the stars together or push them apart. We are living on a tiny island of light in a pitch-black ocean that we do not understand. But the horror goes deeper. Consider the simple refrigerator magnet. When you pick up a paperclip, that tiny piece of metal defies the gravity of the entire Earth. A planet weighing 6 sextillion tons cannot stop a small magnet from pulling a paperclip upward. This is the hierarchy problem. Gravity is absurdly, unnaturally weak. It is 10 to the power of 36 times weaker than the other forces of nature. Why? Some believe it is because gravity is leaking. They suspect our universe is not three-dimensional, but contains hidden, curled-up dimensions that we cannot see. Gravity might be moving through these extra dimensions, spreading its strength thin, leaving us with only a ghostly whisper of its true power. CERN is looking for these hidden doors. They are looking for missing energy, for moments where the law of conservation fails and energy simply vanishes into another layer of reality. But what if the layer they find is one we were never meant to see? We have already found the Higgs field, the invisible ocean that gives particles their mass. But recent measurements suggest that this field is not stable. It is metastable. Imagine a ball resting on a high ledge halfway down a mountain. It looks safe. It has stayed there for billions of years. But it is not at the bottom. If the Higgs field were to move, even by a tiny amount, it would trigger vacuum decay. A bubble of true vacuum would expand at the speed of light, incinerating the laws of physics as we know them. Atoms would dissolve. Chemistry would cease to exist. There would be no warning. 1 second you are reading this, and the next, the very concept of a human being is erased from the fabric of space. We go underground to reach back in time. We cool matter to near absolute zero to ignite conditions hotter than the sun. We are pressing our ears against the walls of the universe, listening for a hollow sound that tells us there is something else behind the curtain. We are not just smashing protons. We are testing the structural integrity of existence. Each collision is a knock on a door we cannot see. Each burst of particles is a question posed to a void that might finally decide to answer. The space between your hands is not empty. It is dense with potential and crawling with invisible fields that hold your very soul together. We are only beginning to understand the depth of the ocean we are drowning in. And as the machine beneath the earth hums with the power of a small city, we have to ask ourselves a terrifying question. If we finally manage to peel back the final layer of reality, what happens if we find out that we were never supposed to be part of the foundation? The most frightening thing about the hidden layer isn't that it is empty. It is that it might be occupied by something that has been waiting for us to stop knocking and finally open the door. 1. 0. Nothing remains. You think you are standing on solid ground, but you are actually floating on a thin layer of frozen smoke. Beneath the skin of the world we see something much deeper and far more terrifying is at work. The atoms in your hands and the light from the stars are just the outermost layer of a structure so complex it defies human logic. Your body is a ghost and the floor is a lie. For decades physics has peeled back reality piece by piece, uncovering particles and invisible fields that shape everything around us. Yet the deeper we look, the more incomplete the picture becomes. Scientists at CERN now suspect that what we call reality is just a thin surface hiding extra dimensions and unseen layers of the universe. They have built the most powerful machine in human history to find out what is lurking in the dark. The border between France and Switzerland looks peaceful, with rolling farmland and quiet villages framed by the Alps. Nothing about this landscape suggests it hides one of the most extreme environments ever created. But 100 meters down there is a ring. It is not a cave or a subway line. It is a 27-kilometer circle of concrete and steel known as the Large Hadron Collider. If the surface is ancient and pastoral, the tunnel below is alien. It is lined with cryogenic pipes and enormous magnets painted in industrial blues. It feels like stepping inside the skeleton of a mechanical planet. The purpose of this machine is to recreate the conditions that existed just after the birth of the universe. Inside the ring runs a pipe so empty it surpasses the vacuum of outer space. Surrounding that pipe are thousands of superconducting magnets cooled to 1.9 Kelvin, which is colder than the natural temperature of deep space. At that temperature, electrical resistance vanishes and currents flow without loss. What moves through that pipe is not light or electricity but beams of protons. These are the stripped cores of hydrogen atoms. Millions of these protons are grouped into bunches and injected into the ring. Then the acceleration begins. Radio frequency cavities deliver electromagnetic pushes, adding more energy with every lap. Faster and faster they go until they are traveling at 99.99% the speed of light. At that velocity, a single proton circles the 27-kilometer ring more than 10,000 times every second. The precision is staggering. If the magnets misalign by even a fraction of a millimeter, the beam would melt through metal. All this power serves one goal, which is collision. At 4 specific points the beams are directed toward each other inside massive detectors named Atlas and CMS. These are not cameras but layered instruments designed to measure whatever emerges from the impact. When two protons smash together, they do not behave like billiard balls. They are clusters of quarks and gluons held together by the strong nuclear force. The energy density at the point of impact becomes extraordinary. For a fraction of a second the collision recreates temperatures similar to those that existed less than a billionth of a second after the Big Bang. In that microscopic fireball, matter and energy blur. New particles burst into existence, and some have never been seen in human history. The goal is revelation. To understand the inside of a watch, you might have to break it apart. In particle physics, energy acts like a magnifying glass. The higher the energy, the smaller the structures we can probe. But this is not just about seeing smaller things. It is about testing if the particles we know are the whole story. For decades the Standard Model has been our blueprint describing 12 fundamental particles and the forces that govern them. Yet it leaves enormous questions unanswered. It does not explain dark matter or gravity. It does not explain why the universe contains more matter than antimatter. The LHC exists because physicists suspect something deeper lies beneath. Einstein told us that energy and mass are interchangeable. In the heat of a collision, energy condenses into particles that may be far heavier than anything in our everyday environment. We are converting motion into mass to see if extradimensional echoes or carriers of unknown forces appear. The detectors do not photograph these particles. They measure tracks and energy deposits. It is like hearing fragments of music through a wall and deducing the entire symphony. Each second billions of collisions occur, but only a tiny fraction are stored. Science advances not when theories are confirmed but when they are broken. The Large Hadron Collider is a controlled attempt to break our understanding of reality. The Standard Model is a map of an island that represents only 5% of a vast continent. Look at the night sky. Every star and galaxy is made of ordinary matter. But when astronomers measure how galaxies rotate, they find a puzzle. Stars at the edges move too quickly and should be flung into space. Something invisible is holding them in place. We call it dark matter. It outweighs ordinary matter by a factor of 5 to 1. Everything you have ever touched is a minority component of the universe. Furthermore, the universe is accelerating in its expansion, pushed by dark energy. If you add up everything we know, you only account for 5% of reality. 95% of existence lies outside our theories. Then there is the crisis of gravity. Take a magnet and hold it over a paperclip. The tiny magnet overpowers the gravitational pull of the entire Earth, which weighs nearly 6 septillion tons. Gravity is absurdly weak. It is 10 to the power of 36 times weaker than the electromagnetic force. Why? Some theories suggest gravity is not weak but is simply leaking into extra dimensions. Imagine our universe is a tightrope. From far away it looks like a line, but up close it has thickness. There may be dimensions curled into tiny loops that we glide past without awareness. If gravity can move into these extra dimensions, its strength is diluted in our three-dimensional world. The LHC is a dimension detector looking for missing energy that might have slipped through a hidden door. Finally, we must face the Higgs field. This invisible ocean permeates everything and gives particles their mass. In 2012, the Higgs boson was discovered, proving the field is real. But the most terrifying revelation is that our universe may be metastable. We are like a ball resting on a ledge halfway down a mountain rather than at the bottom of a valley. This is called a false vacuum. At any moment, a process called quantum tunneling could create a bubble of true vacuum. This bubble would expand at the speed of light and rewrite the laws of physics instantly. Atoms would unravel and chemistry would cease to exist. There would be no warning. The vacuum itself is a loaded gun pointed at the head of the cosmos. We are not standing on solid ground but on a temporary plateau of possibility. The machine in the tunnel is not just smashing atoms, it is looking into the abyss of the hidden layer to see if the floor is about to give way. You are not just made of star stuff, you are a temporary glitch in a field that could decide to delete you at the speed of light. You think you are sitting still right now, but you are actually vibrating at the edge of a cosmic cliff. The floor beneath your feet is a lie, a thin crust of atoms floating over an infinite abyss that the most brilliant minds on Earth are currently trying to tear open. Deep beneath the peaceful pastures of the Franco-Swiss border, there is a machine that has discovered a crack in the universe, and something is finally starting to crawl through it. What if I told you that 95% of everything you see, touch, and love is actually missing? We have spent centuries mapping a reality that is essentially a rounding error. Scientists at CERN are not just smashing particles, they are playing a high-stakes game of hide and seek with a hidden layer of existence that does not want to be found. They built a 27-kilometer ring of steel and magnets, a mechanical god buried 100 meters underground, designed to recreate the exact moment the universe screamed into existence. Above the surface, cows graze and life moves slowly. Below, it is an alien landscape of industrial blues and cryogenic pipes cooled to a temperature colder than the vacuum of deep space. Inside this ring, protons are accelerated to 99.99% of the speed of light. They circle the world 10,000 times every single second. This is not a laboratory. This is a demolition site. We are smashing the clock of reality to see what falls out of the gears, and the results are terrifying. The Standard Model, our ultimate map of the subatomic world, is failing. It describes the particles we know with eerie precision, but it cannot explain the darkness. When we look at the galaxies, they spin too fast. Something invisible, something massive, is holding them together like cosmic glue. We call it dark matter, but that is just a code word for our own ignorance. It outweighs us 5-1. We are the minority. We are the ghosts living in a house owned by something we cannot see. But the real horror lies in the silence of gravity. Think about a tiny refrigerator magnet. It can pull a paperclip upward, defeating the entire gravitational pull of planet Earth. How is that possible? Why is gravity so pathetically weak compared to the other forces of nature? The answer being whispered in the corridors of CERN is that gravity is not weak at all. It is simply leaking. It is bleeding out of our world into extra dimensions that we cannot perceive. We are like ants walking on a tightrope, unaware that there is a vast, multidimensional canyon right beneath our feet. Gravity is the only force that can travel between these layers, and it is trying to tell us that we are not alone in this space. Then there is the Higgs field, the invisible ocean that gives you mass and keeps you from dissolving into light. In 2012, we finally proved it exists. But the discovery came with a grim realization. Our universe is metastable. We are like a ball resting on a narrow ledge halfway down a mountain. If the Higgs field ever shifts, even by a fraction, it would create a bubble of true vacuum that would expand at the speed of light, incinerating every atom in its path. No warning. No sound. Just a sudden rewriting of the laws of physics that would turn your body into nothingness before your brain could even process the flash. We built the Large Hadron Collider to find answers, but we found a door. Every time those beams collide, we are knocking on that door. We are looking for missing energy, for particles that vanish into thin air, for the footprints of a dark sector that operates under rules we do not understand. We are pushing against the ceiling of reality, listening for the hollow sound that proves there is something else living in the attic. As the machine hums to life and the magnets reach their peak power, the scientists watch their screens for a single anomaly. A statistical bump. A pattern that refuses to fit. They are looking for the hidden layer, the submerged continent of reality that our little island of light rests upon. They want to know the truth of the void. But they forget that when you stare into the vacuum is not just empty. It is heavy. It is structured. It is waiting. The search is no longer about physics. It is about survival. We are mapping the edges of a cage we didn't know we were in. And as we refine our measurements, the numbers are starting to reveal a terrifying conclusion. The universe is not a solid, eternal structure. It is a temporary fluctuation. It is a delicate balance of fields that could snap at any moment. There are currently 0 reasons to believe we are safe. The machine is cooling down to 1.9 Kelvin. The protons are reaching their limit. The sensors are waiting for the impact. We are smashing the foundation of our world to see what lies beneath, but we may not like what we find when the lights go out. Because in the end, the most shocking thing about the universe isn't that it is complex. It is that it is precarious. We are 100 meters underground. We are 27 kilometers long. We are 95% in the dark. We are 5 billion years into a countdown we cannot stop. You are not a person. You are just a temporary glitch in a field that is starting to ripple. 30. 20. 10. 0. Read the numbers carefully. The next collision might be the one that finally lets the outside in. Look at your hands right now and try to realize that every single atom you see is currently vibrating on the edge of a cosmic cliff. You think you are standing on solid ground, but you are actually floating on a thin sheet of tissue paper stretched over an infinite abyss. The most terrifying discovery of modern science is not that we are alone in the universe, but that the universe itself is a temporary glitch waiting to be corrected. Deep beneath the border of France and Switzerland there is a 27-kilometer ring of cold steel that has just confirmed our worst nightmare. We spent billions of dollars to build a machine that could peek behind the curtain of reality, and what we found is a countdown clock that we cannot stop. On the surface the hills are quiet and the cows graze in peace, but 100 meters below them a mechanical god is screaming. The Large Hadron Collider is not just a tool for discovery, it is a diagnostic machine for a terminal patient. For decades we believed that the vacuum of space was empty, but we were wrong. Space is a pressurized ocean of invisible fields, and we are just the bubbles caught in the current. Scientists at CERN have spent years smashing protons together at 99.99% the speed of light, trying to find the hidden layer that holds everything together. They found the Higgs boson, the particle that gives you mass, but its discovery was not a triumph. It was a warning. If you add up everything we can see, every star, every galaxy, and every atom in your body, it only accounts for 5% of reality. The other 95% is a dark, silent ocean of matter and energy that we cannot touch or measure. We are the minority. We are the error in the calculation. But the horror goes deeper than just being outnumbered. Gravity, the force that holds the planets in their orbits, is so pathetically weak that a simple refrigerator magnet can defy the pull of the entire Earth. Why is it so weak? Because it is leaking. Our reality is not a sealed box. It is a sieve. Gravity is bleeding out of our world into extra dimensions that we cannot perceive. There are directions in space right in front of your eyes that you are too blind to see, and something in those hidden layers is pulling at the fabric of your life. The deeper we look, the more we realize that our existence is perched on a ledge. Imagine a ball resting in a shallow dip on the side of a massive mountain. For 13 billion years that ball has stayed still. That is our universe. We feel safe. We feel stable. But the math shows that there is a much deeper valley further down the mountain. In quantum physics, nothing is ever truly still. There is a process called quantum tunneling where a field can suddenly teleport into a lower energy state. If the Higgs field at any point in space decide to jump into that deeper valley, it would trigger a chain reaction that would erase the laws of physics as we know them. It would start as a tiny bubble of true vacuum. Inside that bubble, the weight of an electron would change. The strength of atoms would fail. The very structure of matter would dissolve into a soup of unrecognizable energy. And this bubble would not wait. It would expand at the speed of light in every direction. You would not see it coming. You would not feel it. 1 second you are reading a sentence, and the next second the space between your eyes and this screen has been rewritten into a reality where eyes and screens cannot exist. The entire galaxy would be unmade in a heartbeat. We are living in a metastable state. That is the scientific word for a house of cards that has not fallen yet. Every collision in the Large Hadron Collider is a knock on the door of the abyss. We are cooling magnets to 1.9 Kelvin, making them colder than deep space just to steer beams of protons into a head-on crash that mimics the birth of time. We are desperately trying to find a new law of physics, a new symmetry, or a hidden particle that can stabilize the map. We are looking for a reason to believe that the floor is not going to drop out from under us. But the more data we collect, the more the spreadsheet refuses to balance. There is missing energy. There are particles that vanish into thin air during the collisions. There are gaps in the accounting of the universe that suggest we are not the main event. We are a thin layer of frost on a window pane in the middle of a winter that has lasted billions of years. We think we have conquered nature because we can split the atom, but we are just children playing with matches in a room made of gunpowder. The hidden layer is not some distant mystery. It is the very fabric of the void. It is the silent pressure of the Higgs field that allows you to have a body. It is the dark energy that is currently pushing galaxies apart at an accelerating rate. It is the extra dimensions where gravity hides its true strength. We are a cross-section of a much larger and much more dangerous architecture. The silence of the universe is not because there is nothing there. It is because we are standing in the middle of a minefield and we are just lucky that no one has stepped on a trigger yet. As the beams circulate 10,000 times every second inside that cold dark tunnel, they are looking for a crack in the standard model. They want to break our understanding of reality because the current understanding says that we are an accident destined to be deleted. Every time the sensors hum to life, they are listening for a whisper from the hidden layer. They are waiting for a signal that tells us we are safe. But so far the only thing the machine has confirmed is that the ledge we are standing on is much narrower than we ever imagined. You think you are waking up tomorrow. You think you have a future. But you are just a collection of particles held together by a field that is currently having a midlife crisis. The universe does not owe us stability. The laws of physics are not a contract. They are a temporary set of conditions that happen to be favorable right now. We are peering into the abyss not because we want to see the dark but because we are trying to find the light switch before the room disappears. The most disturbing part of this entire journey is the realization that if the vacuum does decay, it has already happened somewhere else. And because it travels at the speed of light, the wave of total annihilation is already on its way. It is a wall of non-existence traveling through the dark. It has already consumed stars. It has already erased entire civilizations. And because of the way light and time work, we would never see it. It is the ultimate predator. Quiet. Invisible. Absolute. We built a 27-kilometer circle of concrete and steel to find out what lies beneath the surface of the world. We found fields that shouldn't exist and forces that leak into the dark. We found that 95% of the cosmos is a ghost. We found that we are balanced on a ledge halfway down a mountain. And the worst part is not the danger. The worst part is the silence. The universe is a beautiful, intricate and perfect map that describes a territory we are not allowed to visit. We are staring at the blueprint of a building that is already on fire. The punchline is simple. The Large Hadron Collider did not find the secret to eternal life. It found the evidence that we are already dead. We are just waiting for the information to arrive.